Hello and welcome everyone to the One Voice series. I'm Meeta Sani and I'm here with Chris Southam. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Meeta. Hello, everybody. Nice to be here.
Really good to have you on board, Chris, because you are one of the founding members of this One Voice series podcast plan that we put together. Do you remember where it all started?
I do. It was pretty much, I think, at the outset of the first lockdown. And Pinky and the Women of the Future Network decided to put together some coffee mornings, virtual coffee mornings for us all. And we were on in a coffee group with two other people, and I'd say we just hit it off, and our conversation just took us to a place where we've landed here, which was it's now a series of webinars about some of the stuff we were talking about.
Yeah, it was pretty powerful actually that morning, because Adeline, who's on one of the other recordings in this series, she mentioned that she'd made a decision to follow her heart rather than possibly what her family expectations were around who she was going to marry. And she said, I did what I wanted to do, and here I am. I've married the guy of my dreams. I'm really happy. And I just said, I think for me, I said, you know what, it seems like you've found your voice in your 20s and were able to take action on that. Whereas I think for me, in so many parts of life, career, parenthood, relationships, for me, I'd really only probably started finding myself and my voice in my 40s. And I think the collective feel in the room was like everyone resonated with thinking, well, yeah, we've all been on our individual journeys. But from that, we decided to, hopefully share some experiences that might help other people in the Women of the Future Network to find their own voice or refine their own voice.
Yes, and I think refine is a good word there, because this journey is ongoing. And I think if we all think about the different life stages that we have, they're all different. It's like a series of connected but different phases of our lives. And there's something about just being clear of the chime, or resonating with the life that we want, and thinking about it sometimes and not just letting it happen to us.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. I mean, we've got some slides to bring up, and they're there more as a guide rather than just a script. But the first thing I want to say before I jump into the slides is that actually Pinky Lilani as our leader, and she's not just a figurehead, she's so dynamic and driven in this space. And actually, just her message for us as the Women of the Future Network on what we can achieve is just so powerful, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And I think one of the things Pinky has done on many of her achievements is to build a family-like network. And I always think of Women of the Future as a family rather than a network in its sort of purest sense. And our connection is familial. And I think we all find that being in that group of people brings boundless value to all of our lives. And I think that would be one of the things that I would thank her for from the bottom of my heart. And I know we're all starting to, to do things as a result of being inspired by the whole thing.
Very much so. So my background of getting to know Women of the Future is from 2016, when I was a finalist in the Entrepreneur of the Year award. And I remember in the end, I lost out to a really worthy lady who just blew us away with her work that she did with charity and clothes she made using locally produced goods. And I remember rather than feeling like I'd lost, I actually realized that I'd won just by being part of this network. And over the years, that's just been reaffirmed, that, everyone in this network has been recognized for something. But it's not just about achievement. It's actually about encouraging each other along that journey.
Yeah, it is. And the one thing I would say just about Pinky is when we first met, it was a phenomenon that I'd never experienced, I don't think, which was friends at first sight. And that's come with me. So yeah. So thank you, Pinky. Thank you. Thank you, the network.
Indeed. I love that. The family feeling, because that's really why we went from a coffee morning to putting this series together, because we've actually got 4 stages. We've got the early years, which is all around school leavers or girls in years 11 plus. Is that kind of like where
and
we're
that resonates with our ambassadors program, where we spend time supporting young women in thinking about how they find their voice in, at school and through in their career in the future,
and exposing them to that way of thinking. And then we've already done a podcast on relationships and motherhood and how one can ensure that they find their voice in that space. We've done one on careers, and when you're thinking about your career or thinking about the next step in your career, what that looks like, and how we have our one voice. And actually, we were talking in that about the fact that there can often be so many voices that influence us, but having that one voice that is true to us is so, so key. And that's what this is about. But Chris, what we're talking about today is the career echo. So just while I get the slide up, tell us what the career echo means to you.
Right, the career echo for me is something that I have personally experienced. And I used to be a marketing director in a big retail company, and I found that I was increasingly feeling a dissonance, and there was something going on that made me feel that I was not disconnecting in a sense, because I had a job to do and I very much, was enjoying doing it.
Yeah.
It was something that wasn't quite aligned, and that's in myself and with what I was doing. And this dissonance, or this feeling of not quite knowing what was going on, kept recurring. And I think that's why I called it the echo. Kept coming back, that voice just saying, look at yourself, look at what you're doing, examine yourself, know thyself.
Yes.
And I think the echo is something that can happen to all of us at any time. Yeah. And that's what we want to talk about today.
Yeah. Very much so. We have on this opening slide, if you like, just the 2 words from Socrates, his wisdom shining through about know thyself. But it's not just in philosophy, it's in religion, it's in the Bible. Everything we talk about is that when you know thyself, when you know yourself, the self-awareness, the knowledge that you get from that process, it helps you in every stage of life. And just listening to your own voice just makes for a much not only happier creative experience, but it impacts on all the people around you as well.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. So the echo.
Yes. Let's move forward. I just wanted to. We had some points here, which I just want to let everyone know that we will be sending these slides out to you as well, so you've got some notes to refer back to. But this really just covers what Chris and I have been talking about, that it's really valuable for you to get some tools, hopefully, from this time with Chris and I. Hopefully the next 30 minutes, next 20 minutes or so, 30 minutes in total, that can give you some guidance. Because I know even for myself, Chris, you say you went through this yourself, and I'm at a stage, and I don't think it's an age. I do think it's a stage where if you have found your voice talks to you a lot, actually. And I think that once you're having that internal dialogue with one voice and understanding where that's coming from, it's hard to ignore it, isn't it?
Yes, very much so. And I think with the echo, you've got to think about what part of my life is not right, or it is not congruent at the moment. Because there are many layers to our lives, and there are many things that go on, many areas within our lives. And it's not necessarily just career that we might feel the dissonance in. It could be our relationships. It could be even location. It could be many things that aren't quite going on. So I think understanding what the echo is telling us is, the first step. It's the important bit. Which bit of my life do I perhaps need to change or bring change about in?
And it's really interesting how you said that you were doing your role and not a lot had changed, but all of a sudden it wasn't as fulfilling, or there was something sort of gnawing away that meant that you needed to give that time. And I certainly feel that even for me in hearing when you mentioned the word career echo, I remember saying, what does that mean? And when you explained it, I said, oh, I think I'm going through a bit of that. So there is that, there will be people out there listening who didn't even realize that this was going on. Maybe they just felt off kilter, maybe they thought they needed a holiday, but it might be that there is something they're doing that needs that inward focus, and just pulling out, the challenges and getting back in line with that voice and understanding what it's saying, hopefully makes for smoother sailing going forward.
Yes, and I think it's not just a bad day at the office, it's kind of not, it may just, that's probably or possibly a one-off, we all have those, for goodness sake, where we wake up in the morning and just the whole day doesn't feel right. But the echo is about something that is constant, resounding, rebounding. You hear it a lot over time, that voice. And so it's at that point that you understand that dissonance is there to stay until you examine it and have a look at it. And you might be able to tidy it up and pack it away again. But the point is, if you're hearing it on more than one occasion, then you need to start that process of thinking about what's going on for you.
And that's really interesting, because once we know, and again, if I reflect on the point that I was like, okay, yeah, I can understand now what's going on with me. It's not that I'm unhappy. It's just that I'm ineffective in my role. I'm just ready to evolve it. And I think it's also really important, and this is something I've learned from you, is that it doesn't have to be a binary shift, does it? It doesn't necessarily, it doesn't need to be as extreme as one might think. These processes create outcomes in.
Yeah, and that's important. It is not an all or nothing, because people get scared of change because it might lead them to something that means that they have to either give up a lot or be completely different. Sometimes it's an added layer or an added dimension to what you're doing that will, send the echo on its way, as it were. So it is not a binary exercise. It's understanding what other perspectives and layers you can bring in to make things whole again. So that's an important point, actually.
And again, I don't believe that it's an age, but I do, maybe it is. I do feel that the older I've got and the more entrenched I've got into what I do, the more people that I think about when I'm making decisions about myself. So I think my voice is certainly clear on who I am and what I want. But sometimes how much I'm willing to shift to listen can be a difficult conversation with yourself, can't it?
Yes, it can. And like all things, if you can do it with a bit of structure, in a structured way, and we can kind of give you some pointers to that, I think, things will become a bit less cloudy and a bit clearer.
Well, I certainly feel that will be music to everyone's ears. I think what you said about it being an evolution, it doesn't have to be extreme, means that people aren't afraid of lifting the lid and seeing what they're going to find when they start these exercises.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing to think about is, what is it that you're wanting to move towards? Do you know? Yeah, because some people will have, what they see as a calling or something very clear that tells them, actually, I want to do this, be this. And if we're using this career frame, which is quite useful at the moment, you might have had a career in mind earlier on in your life that for various reasons you didn't pursue, and now it might be calling you back. So that's quite useful for you, because you're very clear then on what you need to plan for. But if you have this feeling of, I don't really know what it is, but I know it's not what I want or I'm doing now, then
Yeah.
I think that's where you can start with the exercise to try and determine what it is that you are being drawn unknowingly towards. And a good way to do that is to basically think about things that you have an intrinsic interest in. Because we all know that if you're interested in things, then you're passionate and you have energy around that.
Yeah.
So I would, literally get a screen piece of paper and jot down all the things that you have passion around and interest in. And then you can do some very creative stuff with drawing lines to connect things together and cluster. But you'll begin to see a pattern emerging. And I did that very exercise myself, and it took me towards working with people and development. And that's my second career, was as an executive coach. So move from marketing to working in personal development with people. And that's simply because I wrote down on paper what things am I passionate about. And I was passionate about working with teams and people and individuals.
And I think that's a really nice, gentle way into starting to explore if there is something else going on here, because actually, as you and I were prepping for today and just getting into the site and everything and setting up, I mentioned to you that when I looked at this, now that I was reflecting, I actually went from being an employee to being a business owner, and without necessarily doing the exercises, I eventually stumbled on a role as a leader and somebody who could inspire people and empower people to be successful in their careers, rather than just manage them in doing the job. And just the shift of focus has completely lifted my energy. Even on days when it's tough, I feel like I've added value, the feedback I get, and all of a sudden people might think, oh, well, I was really good at that and I wasn't as good at that. But actually, it's probably because they're actually resonating with what they're doing much more effectively and aligned with their voice, if you like.
Yeah, absolutely. So we both had this sort of, blinding light that's shown us that we need to follow different directions. Yours was quite intuitive and off you went, and mine was very specifically write it all down and see where it takes me. And that was very, very useful, I have to say. But of course, you can end up with a very long list then. So what happens next?
Yeah. Well, we'll come on to that. The only other thing I wanted to say about that before we move on is that actually I'm at a point now where I'm starting to have some of these fitness for 10 years on, and I'm starting to have some of these thoughts, but I didn't know how to deal with it because I hadn't had the practical approach and the plans and the exercises that I could lean on and go towards to help guide me. And you mentioned about writing what you like. I think the other thing that we could do is very much is think about hobbies that we're doing, or even just be mindful of a day, of a period of time, and think, what did I like about today? What didn't I like about today? What exercises did I do that I felt energized at the end of, and vice versa. I think in the pandemic, that's probably been one of the silver linings, is that people have had more time to reflect.
Yeah, and that's absolutely spot on what you've just said there in terms of your hobbies. And if I could just take a minute out to tell you a lovely story. One of my next door neighbours, his son was all geared up to be a lawyer, and they'd done, they did the training. They were all kind of ready to go into their first internship. And they were really looking glum and downhearted. So the father said, "What's the matter, Ravi? I just can't understand why, this is, I'd have thought you'd be delighted that you've got here, done your exams and all the rest of it." He said, "I just not feeling it. I'm just not feeling it." So his father said to him, "Why don't you write down, or whatever, think about the things that, what hobbies do you like?" And he said, "Well, I like fishing." Anyway, Ravi is now one of the foremost experts in the world on salmon, and he moved into a completely different space.
Wow.
Because he had understood the power of the things that bring you passion and joy, if you can spend your life doing those, then wow.
That's amazing. That's given me goosebumps. That's amazing. And it's having that self, but he had his father who encouraged him, which I think is really important, to have people around you that you trust and that you admire, that you trust their voice as well, but also the self-belief to know that whatever I put my heart into, I will achieve. I mean, that's not a given, is it? Having that inner voice. That's what we've spoken about today. The sooner we can cultivate and hone that, the better.
Yeah. And I think the honing now is, if once the ideas start coming, and they probably will start pouring out once you start that exercise, I mean, you really will have to narrow them down a bit, because if you are going to go after kind of 20, 30 things on your list, that is a huge amount of time and energy and resource that you put behind it. But you can get it down to less than that, 5 at the most, hopefully 2 or 3 that are really you want to go after and do your research and planning around. That would be my big tip to you, to narrow it down.
Fantastic. Well, Chris, something that you've done for everyone who's come along today to this podcast, and I know that I'll be definitely trying some of these exercises, as well as you've put them on a page here for us to talk about in a little bit more detail, but also we've attached them to the link to this recording. So anybody that is resonating with what Chris and I are discussing today and feel that you want to get more clarity on the direction, these are the 3 links that you'll find. And should we just have a quick recap, Chris, of each one and what they do?
Yeah. So, what's your echo telling you? That there are some sort of extra thoughts around, how you can know what you're being drawn to. Are you already drawn to something that's echoed in the past for you? It's just getting clear and getting yourself narrowed down, funnel it down a little bit to make the next part of your job a lot easier, which is the plan for change.
Right.
Now, because I would always say you don't have to do things because they're impossible, because there are many people that will climb mountains because they're there. You don't have to do the impossible, so why not explore the possible? And the plan for change is really the art of the possible, because there are a number of things that you will have to think about and research before your plan becomes actionable. And one of those, of course, is your skill base. If you want to train as a medic, if you whatever those things that are calling you, where is your skill base right now in terms of what you might need to do or add in to do that? So that's the first thing. And I would make an audit of your skill base anyway, and then you can apply it to all of the ideas that might have sprung up during this process. So be really clear about what I am skilled in.
Can I add to that? You might tell me that I'm completely on the wrong path, but when young girls are at school or university, we encourage them to intern, to shadow, to learn about different careers, to take Saturday jobs. And, for somebody at our stage, we have, kids, we have bills and all that sort of thing. But actually, we could take a holiday and volunteer. And if there is something we want to try, there can be a creative way for experiencing or stepping into that world to make sure it is actually what we think it is, and to help us with that plan.
Yeah, that's a brilliant build. And I think if you add into that what you've just described, which is the experiential piece, that will tell you whether that echo is the one to go after or not, because you will have, you'll have done it for a while and you'll know whether it's for you. So that's
a great creative. Yeah,
it is. And the next point of your planning is you need to think about the network of support that you have. So it's not just who can I ask for some help here in pursuing this, but who can I talk to about it? You know, if you want to be a bricklayer, you probably need to find some bricklayers to talk to find out about it. You know, if you want to be a florist, either maybe get yourself some work as a florist or a bricklayer. I love the experiential side of it, but also just look at your contacts and network and people that you have great relationships with, because they will be more than willing to help you. Yeah, absolutely. That, because people love being able to share their experiences and ideas, and they'll be more than happy. So you need a big list of people who you're going to talk to about particular things, and you know, really think outside of the box on that one, because you'll be surprised. And people will not deny you their time. They'll be more than happy to help.
And I imagine that when you tell them what's going on, they'll probably resonate with you and say, do you know what? I had a bit of that, or I know somebody, or I didn't realize that was what was going on with me. Like, it adds value to their world as well. So
very rich conversations, and you know, that's they're well worth having. They're well worth putting the resource behind. Now you need to have a time frame, because you know, if you are going to change, to effect change, then you want to know when you want change to have happened by, and you know, that's part of, you know, having some kind of, I mean, we're all very familiar with roadmaps right now, but if you don't have a roadmap for change, then you know, the end point is, you know, you can't see it. So we need to know what the milestones are in your program for change, a personal change program, and just understand what that time frame looks like in that roadmap. So so that's useful. Finance, you know, how are you going to finance whatever your change is? Now, it might be that it doesn't require a lot of finance. You might need to retrain, which you can do with government schemes, and all. There are all sorts of people ready to help you if you do want to make change, but you need to think about how much it is going to cost, and then, you know, how will you fund that? You know, there are so many creative ways with crowdfunding, all sorts of things that you can do now. So it's, you know, really, you can really probably fund what you like if you're creative enough.
Yeah, and that is a really good point, isn't it? The practicalities of this shift and whether it's realistic. And I mean, you know, there may be some people there who are thinking, well, I've definitely got this feeling that something needs to shift. I've done some exercises, but I can't take that risk until my children are at university and you know, the school fees are down, or you know, everyone will have their own reasons why not. I mean, what advice would you give to somebody who was in that situation, Chris?
Yeah, I think, well, actually, that's come nicely to the next point in the plan, which is your home and life commitments, you know, and how do they fit in with your plan? Because the timing might be off, and that's okay. You know, you can just extend the time frame for when you want to do it. And I am a believer in if it's really the right thing, then you will find a way. But don't be afraid of changing your plan because of what's going on in your life at any point in time. And that's why the echo happens, because it wasn't the right thing to do at that point in time, but it will be a bit later on. So it's the echo chooses its time, funnily enough, which is,
I love that.
Yeah, so that's
amazing.
It. But you're right, we have to think about those who we love and live with. You know, it's like we are not always the only person.
Yeah, so very much so.
I mean, we've got to think about location. You know, are we in the right place to make this change? Do we need to change to another place? Say you wanted to run a yoga retreat, for example, and you lived in the urban heartland. Well, that might you know, okay, but it might not be. So, you know, is there a move to be made? Is it the right time, if you have children, for your children to make a move? So all these be added into this research pot. And research is that word, research. Google will be your best friend for some time when you set out on this journey, you know.
Yeah. And listen to your own Google answers as well of what, you know, you're feeling in yourself and what sits with you. And I like what you said about a time frame, that, you know, have some, you know, points that you want to achieve things by, but also to know that it's okay that if you're on the journey but you're not there yet, it's still progress. And I think that's what it's about, is getting on that journey, getting on the Career Echo train, if you like, and starting to move along.
That's exactly what it is. And if you can just make sure that it's not just a bad day in the office, that this is something that keeps coming back and visiting you, and that you're happy now to embark on that change. Make a plan, leave some space in your plan. Don't start it immediately, because you need to come back and revisit it when, you know, maybe a week or two has passed, to check. To keep checking in with yourself that this feels right. And then you need to have a picture of what success looks like. What does the end point look like? And a lot of athletes vision these things, and, you know, very successfully vision their success. Well, you can vision your new life or wherever it's taking you, and you can visit that vision and hold it dear and have it with you along your journey. But you know, I think one thing I would say is intuition is a very powerful compass. And if you are feeling an intuition that's strong about something, then it's probably right.
Oh, but that's given me goosebumps and butterflies all at the same time, Chris. That's powerful. And I really hope that all of our listeners and viewers today have been able to find things that resonate with them. And thank you for walking us through some of these resources. As I said, they'll all be attached to the recording as well. And everyone can do them in their own time. And I can't believe we're already at 30 minutes, Chris. I do want to, I'm going to stop the slide presentation for a minute just to bring us both back up on screen, because I think one question I'd like to ask just in our closing few minutes is, when you listen to your echo and you put yourself through that process and you found your new role and your new way of adding value, what shifted for you?
A real sense of fulfillment, a real sense of I am in the right space, the right place, with the right people, doing the right things.
That's amazing. So it's well worth the journey, because even if you put a line and point somewhere, whether you get to the left or the right, you've moved along, and that will help with that sense of fulfillment.
Yeah, and you're a living example of that. You know, you now own your own company. It's, you know, that's a fabulous kind of journey you've been on, and I think, you know, it's manifest that both of us have felt achievement and happiness through going on these journeys.
Yeah, very much so. It's a brave step, but it's an essential step, isn't it, to take for your own self-care, for your voice, for your purpose in life.
Indeed.
Amazing. Well, Chris, thank you so much. This One Voice series is so powerful, and thank you for being part of it and for taking us along on this journey together. And thanks for your time in today's session on the Career Echo.
Oh, it's been lovely. Good luck, everybody.
Thank you. Good luck all. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.